Good morning and welcome back to my channel. I'm Joey Only here in Wells, British Columbia, up in the mountains, the Caribou Mountains. And lately, the weather's really bad right now. It's really windy and cold outside. And I'm waiting till next week to start firewood because I don't have a truck. So you will be seeing firewood videos in this channel soon, I'm sure. In my meantime, I've been stuck at home. I've been poor, waiting for employment insurance to come in. I got no vehicle. And what do you do when you're poor and bored and isolated out in the mountains? You train and you get better at your Kung Fu. Yesterday, I was talking a lot about concepts of relaxation, and I was showing you some of the hits that I could pull out without actually using muscular force to do so, that I was basically using my skeletal structure and relaxation in order which to deliver very strong hits without doing very much in my muscular structure, right? So I want to pick up on that today. I'm going to say, first of all, that I'm not a Wing Chun master. I'm 21 years into my journey and I have a lot to learn. The best way for me right now to continue training and learning in my own, seeing as I love to make videos, is to make videos about what I'm doing and what I'm talking about and share my philosophies so that if something should ever happen to me, you'll know some of the things that I deeply thought and felt and wanted for myself in my life. So today I want to talk about hitting concepts, punching concepts. If you aren't a student of my school of Kung Fu, you may still find some of this useful. If you're new, you may find it a bit advanced. It may give you an idea if you come to my house and you want to learn Silam Tao form and we want to work on some of these concepts. This will give you an idea of the places we might go. And for the rest of you in the Wing Chun world, this is some of my perspectives on the matter of hitting that you can take it or leave as you will. So my personal opinion is there's many kinds of punches in the Wing Chun system. They're all right there in our Silam Tao. We don't think of it that way. We often get narrowed into this idea of there's one kind of punch, and then different traditions will have different ideas as to how that punch is supposed to be used, right? So we have arguments about the different kinds of punches there are. And my opinion is those are both good punches and they're used for different purposes. So I'll talk about that a little bit. So the first one I was shown in our Silam Tao form. So the very first things that Wing Chun is trying to teach you in our Kung Fu is first, that stance. I got my knees bent. There. Toes come apart 45, heels come out. Now I'm in that position. The second thing we do is establish center line. Hands come up. And so then the third thing we do in Silam Tao is the punch. There's a point to the fact that the punch is the third thing in stance, angle, how we move. The very first three things, and it's really important because that's like so much of the system. You get that part right, everything else is going to start getting easier and easier and easier and easier. So the first one I was learned, and it was explained to me this way, that our body, imagine holding a gun. What's the strongest, when you hold a gun, what's the strongest angle that your arms are at when you're holding a handgun? You don't have your hands bent because you don't have your elbows collapse too much because that'll make the gun kick out. There's a strong angle and it's like a wedge coming in, and that's how our punches are going to come, through this triangular structure. And we know that triangles are very strong, right? So through this triangular structure is where those hits come from, down that center line, through triangle. The point of the triangle is the place of contact, and then through it. Our moves are designed to be a wedge into their attack. So the first punch I was shown by Robert is this one. And all it is hand is relaxed, and you're going to activate the joints from, if you want to go real deep with it, you could go from the floor up, but I'm just going to go as simple as possible. So I'm going to activate the joints from here down and around the elbow, back up and around the wrist and out through the knuckles, right? And that's just straightening the wrist. Straightening the wrist. Straightening the wrist. Step in a little bit. This is where we can get that 1 inch power, right? Without using very much actual strength. So I can throw those. So one of the critiques people have about this one is that if your timing is off, you can hurt your wrists. That's true. If your timing is off, train more. Because you should be fluid enough in your timing that it should work together, right? So we have that. Just straightening of the wrist, right? This will send a lot of power of your body mass through these small points in the bottom of the arm. It will line up and make a straight. So you try hitting like this. It's very easy to break and push the wrist to move it. But when you have this, that's a very solid object coming in, right? So what that does is allow that force to be channeled straight out, and you're not going to risk breaking your wrists. So that's one of the problems, is the timing with doing that. And it's not an incorrect technique. No. There are other ways to punch, yes, but that technique is useful for certain things. Well, what's that useful for? It's great for when you find yourself inside and you're already there and your hand's already here, and then all you got to do is just, and you can hit hard if you want to from very close range. So what that's for isn't for random flurry of hits. What that's for is a precise strike when you're already inside. Arms are failing, you get inside, suddenly the chest is there, and wham! All you gotta do is straighten the arm and send the force through, right? So that's one technique that's good for certain things that you may find yourself in, because you want to hit freely from anywhere, anytime, without, mind to target, right? You're hitting to be free, open, and easy. And that's one of the benefits that can help us with, is just allowing us to hit from almost any angle, anywhere, anytime, because we're just using that straightening of the arm. So that's one kind. Now, other people in other systems like to have a much more direct, straight arm one. I use this one a lot too. And that's the one where the arm just comes straight out, right? You're not moving the hands. If anything, it's the elbow, but it shouldn't be. It should be your mind force moving towards the target. How you have to think about it when you're doing your sil and tau slowly. So this is a straight one, and it's effective because that is there. And wherever you make contact, whether it's here, whether you're here or here or here, as long as that straight technique is there, your arms are going to be solid. You're going to send a lot of power through the hands, and it's possible to be explosive in that method as well. Equally as explosive as 1 inch punches are, or more. It depends on you, how much you train in one thing or the other, right? So those are two kinds of punches that are people misunderstand. They think that they're the same punch, and then they argue, how do you use that punch? No, they're two different kinds of punches for two different kinds of things, right? The 1 inch punch, that straightening of the elbow, is for when you're already inside and you have to do very little. Straight punches are probably your best go-to if there's a bit of space between you and them and you're coming down that line and they have arms out and you're best off to keep it simple at that point, right? Keep those mechanics simple and explode out of it. So that's two different kinds of punches. There's more though. In our Silam Tao system, there's a whole bunch of punches and you just never put it together. For example, we do these pak saos in the Silam Tao, right? And that's useful for blocking arm. But it could be that you're in tight quarters, you're not square to the opponent when things start, there's multiple opponents. So this pak sao can easily be a punch, right? I can move the fist, and that almost turns into, again, if I just change my feet, that turns back into my straight line punch. So, pak sao, right? Punch sao. It's there already for you if you want to use it, right? That mechanic is there. You can move that way. We have that in our system for a reason. Instead of this block, you can punch. It's the same thing. It's just a matter of opening your hand or closing your hand, right? So we don't think about it that way because we practice our whole Silam Tao system learning there's only one punch. But when you become free in your, you've incorporated it into your body mechanics and you're free to use that system as you want, the hits can come out of anywhere that we've learned. So we have these motions in our Silam Tao. Well, what are these? These are, it's great for helping feel your own body in space. Here's the limits of my attacks. So I do think of it that way when I do my Silam Tao. But what is this? That's, you're facing this target. That's a strike to that guy, right? Well, all you have to do is close the hand and that becomes back fist. So within the system, the idea is like you're not always fighting one person. You're into a multitude of different kinds of characters sometimes, or locations or spaces or whatnot, right? So to hit freely from any place, my center line is still from here to here in this target, but the camera right now is a secondary target. So I have other weapons put into my system that are there if I need them. They're in the Silam Tao already. Just treacherous out there today. Blasting wind. Raining, snowing. Miserable. Kung Fu days at home. Chu Shan Tin, who was very wise in the ways of Chinese medicine, he liked to call it mind force that you're hitting from. So you might equate that to chi in a sense. And what he maintained was, in doing a Silam Tao super slowly, that he was perceiving in the back of his brain, an area in the back of his brain was what was being activated in which to use that mind force. So then at University of Shanghai or something like that, they hooked him up to a whole bunch of different brain devices and found that was exactly correct. So the mind force comes out of this place that you don't necessarily use, and you're very tempted to always use this emotional frontal part instead of this relaxed part. So how our power comes out of us, this chi force, it's actually a tangible thing. It's not just some made up. It's a place in the brain that controls the body and can be activated and tapped into to do so. So saying that, I want to talk about the infamous chain punch. Everyone always wants to see the chain punch. How fast can you chain punch? It's like they've seen the Ip Man movie, for example, and he's in there and he's just hitting the guy's face so hard and so fast. But you've already seen with my punching bag, when I exert power into my hit, the punching bag tends to move back. And it actually tends to be lifted upwards in the motion, even though the weight's all distributed at the bottom, basically, this punching bag now. The tendency is it wants to still explode upwards, right? So when you're throwing these hits, generally one is all you need. That's what Ip Man said, one punch too many. If you unload a Wing Chun punch and they're still standing there, then you better run away because you don't have power. And that's what you got to work on, is that mind force power, right? So chain punch, it's an application that's used in certain circumstances for certain things. And we develop it for speeding and we develop it for timing. But in itself, it's a technique that you're not going to use necessarily very often. Now, there's times I've used a chain punch in sparring with people. And often it's kind of as a control tactic where I just keep readjusting my line and hitting them pretty hard in places that aren't that detrimental to them because we're sparring. But what it does is it makes them react, and it generally forces them back as I'm making contact because they're trying to readjust. And each time they do that, I'm sensing their gravity and I'm readjusting my center lines and attack angles and making use of that knowledge I have to directly act out. So there's times where you might use a chain punch, you get inside, and now you have a couple seconds, a split second once you're inside to hit that face, and you might get 3 of them in there, forces him back. And as he's doing that, then you might be able to set up your actual power shot because now you felt in the reaction, the shifting of their gravity, and you might be able to actually pinpoint the best place to hit them to just totally either disable them in terms of hitting a pressure point, or I did this one time to a guy. I hit him underneath the arm, and then he went to swing. Actually, it was this side because he was right-handed, and I just got in and hit underneath that arm right hard, and then he went to swing and he couldn't lift his arm, and then I just walked away. Fight was over, right? And then he just kind of stand there like trying to lift his arm. So I mean, again, just needed one shot in the right place with power, and in that case I didn't have to throw a bunch of shots. I just felt where his gravity was at that moment in that attack angle and where the opportunity was, and I did something that he didn't expect, and also temporarily disabled him. So it was a quick victory. That was in Saskatoon many years ago. So our chain punch is just a tactic. It's just one of the many things in that box of tools we have in Silam Tao, right? We have the ability to deliver a short hit from inside if we're inside in the body, and take that center line hit without lots of motion. We have that ability if we're, sometimes the most direct line of attack isn't to readjust to a straight line. Sometimes the straightest line of attack is right where you are, right? And then you adjust after you change that angle. We have the straight arm, so that mechanic just comes, and that's the same with our blocks, with our bong saws. It comes out of the elbow, it lifts up, right? So we have the straight arm punches, and we have punches that are within our Silam Tao already. That can be easily that. Shifted the foot, it becomes a center line punch. If you're gonna do that, you might as well adjust the center line, but there may be reasons why you have to hit this target here and continue on this way. There may be more than one person. There may be, you may be in an environment that's moving, and you just for whatever reason, you may have to freely move. Everything must be free to move. Then we have back fists that are inside our Silam Tao as well. It's only a matter of closing the hand to make that back fist. Other Wing Chun systems have this back fist, right? Which isn't in the Silam Tao that I was taught, but I do sometimes add that in that one section of my Silam Tao now, just for freedom of movement, because you must be free to move any which way you can. And then we have also chain punching concepts, which are fast, direct, and we practice that for speed and power. Its actual application to fight, maybe there, maybe not. So a lot of mistakes people make who are new to Wing Chun is, I've learned my chain punch, and then here's a guy coming in, and they walk at him, throwing the chain punch, and they just get slammed in the side of the head, right? So that's very poor Wing Chun if that's your concept of it. You're very still new. You need a lot of time to come up with the game of angles properly, and not just rely on the very first basic thing we learn, which is from here to me, from me to you. Yes, that's super key. We need to know that. But from me to you can change. And I watched this video of this Wing Chun kid just getting his butt kicked by a guy who was just doing this. And he just kept trying to hold that center line. Well, what good was that center line if you're just getting pummeled inside the head? And he didn't once kick the guy in the groin or try to step out and control that line, right? So everything has to flow in circles, if you will, and straight lines. You don't just straight line only. You have to have your circles in your game too, and that takes time to develop. That's not something that you get right away in Wing Chun. So don't study for 6 months and then say, I know Wing Chun, and then go get your butt kicked and humiliate, dishonor the tradition, because but you know, for me, 6 months in, I was pretty, compared to who I met in street fighting and bully situations and their lack of style and tactics, I was already, after 6 months, a real handful for them, as opposed to in my karate and jiu-jitsu styles. I feel like I was playing their game more still, trading blow for blow, power for power, speed for speed. There's only so long that I could be at the top of that game, right? And at the time that I was young, I'm pretty sure that if I met up with old Will right now, I mean, he was a guy who learned Shotokan, who learned Hapkido, who learned Judo and learned Jiu-Jitsu. So, and he's about this tall, and little Will, I'm sure even now he'd probably be in his 60s. As good as I am, I don't think that it would be a fair fight because he's put so much time into his system, right? The problem is you don't run into guys like Will just randomly fighting people out there. You run into guys who throw random shots out of anger and rage. Come at me, bro. And the second you turn your head is when they take their chance, right? That's who you come against on the street. Rage cases who sucker punch, who, you don't run into guys like Will who can easily defeat me. What I do want to say about that is Will had to learn all those different Japanese systems to become complete. And the beauty of Wing Chun is from day one, we began to learn the things that he spent many, many years in. Will's a case of being a better martial artist than almost anybody he probably faced, right? So part of that was his dedication, his training. He spent more time than probably anybody you know, and he knew more about weapons. He knew more. He was just really, really good. You're going to run into that. Even in people who are totally untrained, you're going to run into that, right? So people who are just very good, they have a lot of experience, a lot of confidence, and they know how to move. They know how to move their body. So there are no quick tricks to getting better. Really, that's the thing, right? And these are all very simple concepts that I have to share and that have been shared with me. But there's no easy solution, right? It's nothing replaces practice and training and commitment. I hope you enjoyed hearing some of my ideas and concepts on hitting and punching. Please come back, subscribe to the channel, tell a friend or something like that. Got shows with Frankie McDonald on every week here, and I got lots of videos about forest fires and weather, and my channel's a little bit of everything. I'm just a guy in the mountains, and the weather is nasty today, so I'm going to just keep doing my thing indoors. Have a great week, everybody.